All right, so get this. We've got an article here claiming Pep Guardiola is facing a real puzzle this season at Manchester City.
Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah, they're on track for like 73 points,
Whoa. Okay.
which is crazy low for Pep, right? Like he averages 91.
Yeah, that's unheard of for a guy who's used to dominating like he does.
Right. So we're talking about maybe a turning point in his career, even.
Real test for sure.
Yeah. So let's break down why this season is going so differently for him in City.
Well, what jumps out from the article is how it's not just like a few bad games.
Yeah.
It's like deeper issues that keep cropping up.
Hmm.
And for a manager like Pep, whose teams are known for being so efficient,
Mm-hmm.
this season has been like uncharacteristic errors and just like a vulnerability we haven't seen before.
Okay, let's get into the specifics then. The article starts by talking about City's defense.
Right.
They're letting in almost twice as many goals as usual under Pep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, is that like a massive red flag or what?
Oh, it's definitely significant.
Oh,
I mean, historically, Pep's teams average like 0.7 goals conceded per game.
wow.
But this season, it's ballooned to 1.3.
Oof.
And it's not just the goalkeeper having an off season either. The article makes it clear.
Okay.
Edison's actually doing pretty well based on what they call expected goals or XG.
Right. Can you remind me what that is again? It's been a while since I've looked at those
Yeah,
stats.
no problem.
Yeah.
So basically, XG measures the quality of scoring chances a team creates,
Right.
or in this case, concedes. So like a shot right in front of goal has a way higher XG than a long-range shot.
Okay. Makes sense.
And what's worrying is that City's opponents are generating a much higher XG this season.
Oh, so they're getting better chances to score, not just flukes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which suggests there's a bigger problem with how the defense is set up.
So it's not just bad luck or individual mistakes. It's like something more fundamental.
Yeah, it's systemic.
Yeah.
Like the whole way the defense is organized is letting opponents get better looks at goal.
Mm.
And that's just a huge difference from how Pep usually dominates tactically.
Yeah, that's worrying. Okay, so we've got a leaky defense.
Right.
What about squad depth? Pep's known for preferring smaller squads, but is that backfiring on him now?
The article definitely seems to think so.
Oh, right.
While smaller squads can have better chemistry
Right.
and everyone knows their role,
Yeah.
they're also more vulnerable when injuries hit.
True.
And City's been hit hard this season, especially losing De Bruyne and Rodri.
Yeah, De Bruyne being out is massive. He's like the creative engine of the team.
Absolutely.
And Rodri, I mean, come on, he's the reigning Blondo winner. It's like losing your best midfielder and best overall player in one go.
You can't easily replace players like that.
Right.
And the article points out that while they signed replacements like Kovacic and Nunez, they haven't really filled the void left by Rodri.
It's like trying to replace a 5-star Michelin chef with a decent home cook.
Exactly. And it's not just midfield. The attack is thin too, especially after Julian Alvarez left.
So one injury to Haaland, and they're in big trouble. Talk about putting all your eggs in one basket.
It's a risky strategy for sure. Haaland's been phenomenal. But if he goes down,
Yeah.
City's attack would look very different.
Right.
Maybe this season will force Pep to rethink his approach to squad size.
Interesting. Okay, so we've got a leaky defense, a squad stretched thin. What about tactics? Is Pep trying something new, and is that part of the problem?
Well, the arrival of Haaland definitely forced him to make some adjustments.
Right, because he's like this classic goal-scoring machine,
Yeah, exactly.
and they changed things up to make the most of his strengths.
Exactly. Remember last season they won the quadruple with a more defensive setup to accommodate Haaland?
Yeah, they were unstoppable.
But this season, that balance seems to be gone.
Huh.
They're still controlling possession, but they're struggling to score goals.
So it worked incredibly well, and they changed it.
Well, it's not that simple.
Yeah.
It seems like other teams have figured them out.
Oh, interesting.
They've adapted to City's style. They know what to expect.
So they're more predictable now.
Right, which makes it easier for opponents to counter their attacks.
Yeah.
It's almost like Pep solved one puzzle last season, only to be presented with a brand new one this year.
That's a great way to put it. He's got to stay ahead of the curve.
Exactly. All right, let's move on to something I always find fascinating, the tactical side of things. The article talks about the Pep press.
Ooh, yeah, I love that stuff. It's like the secret sauce behind his success.
Right. It's all about that relentless, high-energy pressing where they just swarm the opponent and win the ball back quickly.
Yeah.
It's been a trademark of Pep's teams. But this season, it seems to have lost its bite.
Oh, really? Why is that?
Well, the article suggests a few reasons.
Hmm.
One is the aging squad. Some of those key players who were so crucial to the press,
Yeah.
they just can't maintain that intensity for a whole season anymore.
Yeah.
It's physically demanding.
Makes sense. Father Time is undefeated.
Exactly. And then there's the new wingers.
Oh, right. Like Doku and Savinho?
Yeah, they're incredibly talented in attack,
Yeah.
but they don't seem to have the same defensive work rate as the players they replaced.
Interesting. So it's not just the older players slowing down, it's also a shift in the types of players they're bringing in.
Right. They're more attack-minded, which can leave gaps in the press.
Hmm. So is that a miscalculation by Pep or just a necessary adaptation?
It's hard to say for sure. It could be a bit of both.
Right.
Maybe he overestimated how quickly the new wingers would adapt to his system, or maybe he's deliberately trying something new. It's almost like he's trying to fit square pegs into round holes, hoping it'll work out.
I love that analogy. It makes you wonder if he's sacrificing some defensive solidity for more firepower and attack.
That's the gamble, right?
Yeah, it is. But we've only just scratched the surface here. There's so much more to unpack about this season's puzzle.
Definitely. In part 2, we'll look at some of the potential solutions Pep might try and how his adjustments could change City's future.
Sounds good. I'm already hooked. Let's take a break and come back for more.
All right, we're back and ready to dive into part 2 of this whole Pep Guardiola situation.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff, right? Totally. So we were talking about the Pep press losing its edge, and I'm still trying to figure out how something that worked so well is suddenly not.
Right. It's like, what happened?
Yeah, the article goes deeper into why that is.
Okay.
We talked about aging players, the new wingers not being as defensively minded.
Yeah.
But is it really that simple?
Well, think of it like this.
Okay.
It's like a clock where all the gears are working perfectly together.
Mm-hmm.
If even one gear slows down or is even slightly off,
Yeah.
the whole mechanism is affected.
Right.
The press is the same. It needs incredible stamina for sure,
Of course.
but also tactical discipline and perfect timing between all the players.
So it's not just about outrunning your opponent. It's about outsmarting them, too.
Exactly. If there's even a tiny hesitation, a miscommunication, a moment where someone isn't in the right place, the press breaks down.
And then what?
Opponents find those gaps and exploit them.
Right.
And suddenly City's defense is in trouble.
Yeah.
And we're seeing that more and more this season.
Okay, that makes sense. But there's another thing we haven't talked about, confidence. City under Pep have been so dominant.
Yeah.
It's almost like their opponents were beaten before the game even started. Do you think that's gone now?
It's a really interesting point. When you're winning all the time, dictating the game,
Right.
you have this swagger.
Yeah.
Your opponents feel it. It affects how they play, how aggressive they are.
But then what happens when they start losing?
Those cracks start to show.
So a couple unexpected losses, and suddenly everyone thinks they can beat the champs.
Exactly. And those close games that City used to win, maybe they don't go their way anymore.
Interesting.
The doubt creeps and the margins for error get smaller,
Right.
and they're in this unfamiliar territory.
It's going to be tough for Pep. He's used to being the one in control.
Absolutely. And this is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
It might not just be a dip in form. We could be seeing a turning point in his career.
Whoa.
Can Pep adapt?
Yeah.
Can he change his system and get that edge back? Or is this the beginning of a decline?
Man, I need answers. But before we get all philosophical, let's talk solutions.
Okay.
The article suggests a few things, like rebuilding the midfield seems like a priority.
Yeah, they need someone to fill that gap left by Rodri.
Someone who can control the game, protect the defense,
Exactly.
and launch attacks, like a complete midfielder.
Absolutely.
De Bruyne coming back will help with the creativity.
For sure.
But what about Haaland? How can they get more out of him and make their attack less predictable?
The article talks about getting him more involved in the build-up play.
Oh, interesting.
Instead of just waiting for crosses, use his strength and his passing ability to create chances for others.
So turn him into more of a complete forward.
Right. It's about trying new things, getting out of their comfort zones.
And that's where Pep comes in, right? He's the one who needs to make it happen.
Absolutely. He has to convince the players that this is the way forward.
That it's not a step down for Haaland, but a way to make them even better.
Exactly. Like he's conducting an orchestra, making sure everyone is playing in harmony.
Great analogy. But what about the press? Can it be revived, or is it a thing of the past?
That's a tough question. And I don't think it's about going back to exactly how it was. Maybe it's about being more selective.
How so?
Focusing on specific triggers, pressing in key areas, instead of trying to do it everywhere on the pitch.
So being more strategic, more intelligent, not just running around like crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Adapting the press to the players, the opponents, the game situation.
Right.
That's what a truly great manager does.
They evolve without losing sight of their core principles.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got a potential midfield rebuild, a more involved Haaland, a smarter press. It sounds like Pep has a lot of work to do.
He does. But it'll be fascinating to see how he handles it.
It will. But
Yeah.
remember, all of this hinges on one thing, Pep himself.
Oh, absolutely.
His mindset, his ability to adapt, that's what will decide how this season goes.
It's a true test for him.
All right, well, I'm even more curious now. I can't wait to see how Pep tackles these challenges and how City respond.
In the final part, we'll shift gears and focus on Pep's legacy.
Ooh, interesting.
What does this season mean for his reputation as a genius? How will it change his approach going forward? We'll find out.
We're back for the final part of our deep dive, and my mind is still swirling from all this pep talk.
Yeah, it's been quite the journey, huh?
It has. We've covered a lot. Leaky defense, thin squad tactical changes. But as we wrap up, I keep coming back to this one question. What does all this mean for Pep's legacy?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is. I mean, he's practically built a dynasty on being the best.
He's revolutionized the game.
Yeah.
The way we think about tactics, possession-based football.
Yeah, his Barcelona team was legendary, then Bayern Munich, and now Man City.
Exactly. He's been at the top for so long.
But this season it feels different, like the magic formula isn't working the same way.
It's like watching a master painter try to recreate their best work, but with different tools, a different canvas.
I love that analogy.
The strokes are familiar, the technique is there, but something's off.
Right. So is Pep at a crossroads.
Maybe. Can he adapt to the new challenges, evolve his style to stay ahead?
Or are we seeing the limits of his system? The inevitable decline that even the greats face?
It's possible.
I mean, think about the impact he's had on football.
Unbelievable.
He's influenced so many coaches, players, changed the way we understand the game.
Yeah.
So any sign of weakness from him is going to send ripples through the entire sport.
It's like when Superman suddenly shows a weakness.
Right.
Everyone starts to believe they can take him down.
So Pep's struggles could actually be good for football in a way.
In a sense, yes. It forces other managers to step up to innovate.
Competition breeds excellence. Yeah.
Exactly. Without it, things get stale. Everyone gets complacent.
And Pep, even when he's struggling, he's pushing boundaries, forcing others to improve.
Absolutely. It's like this constant arms race of tactical ideas.
Okay, but let's focus on Pep for a second. Beyond the tactics, how do you think he's handling all of this personally?
Knowing Pep, I'd say he's probably equal parts frustrated and energized.
Makes sense.
I mean, the guy's intense. He hates losing.
Right.
But he's also a relentless innovator. He loves a challenge.
So this season is pushing him to think differently, to find new solutions.
Exactly. It's testing him in a way we haven't seen before.
But can he stay true to his principles while also making changes?
That's the key question. That's what separates the good from the great.
It's like walking a tightrope.
Right. One wrong step and it all comes crashing down.
That's what makes this whole thing so captivating. We're watching a master at work trying to crack a code that keeps changing.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Totally. This deep dive has taken us beyond the surface level.
Yeah, we've gone deeper than just wins and losses.
We've seen Pep's vulnerabilities, his struggles.
But also his brilliance, his passion for the game.
We've explored the tactical side, the psychological pressure.
And ultimately, we've gained a new understanding of how complex this sport really is.
So as we wrap up, I'm left with this feeling of, will Pep solve the puzzle? Will City return to their dominant ways?
Who knows? But it's going to be one heck of a ride finding out.
That's the beauty of football, right?
Absolutely. It's unpredictable. It's always evolving.
Oh.
And that's what keeps us coming back for more.
Well said. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. It's been a pleasure.
Likewise.